On and on we go, bluffing our way through the wonderful world of rock and roll guitar. Hey folks, how you doing? Nick Jennison. It is Monday night. We're doing the thing we do on Monday nights, which is hang out, but not in our usual location. We are down here in the salubrious Lick Library Studios filming some new content for you guys, but of course we would not miss the opportunity to hang out with you and chat about the guitar. And specifically today, we are chatting about I guess you might call it a bluffer's guide, but let's call it a thieves guide to the wonderful world of rock and roll guitar. Now, what do we mean by rock and roll? It means a lot of things to a lot of people. We are specifically talking about the kind of stuff that you heard me busking my way through in the intro, which is, I guess you could call it sort of a pseudo Scotty Moore thing or a pseudo Brian Setzer thing. I am by no means an expert player in this genre, but I have stolen enough stuff from these guys and bluffed enough of these tunes at gigs to have some little pearls of wisdom that hopefully we can impart on you and maybe help you use these sort of ideas and these concepts in your other playing styles. Maybe you're a blues player, a rock player, a metal player, perhaps, who knows? And maybe we can help you employ some of this stuff to make those styles of playing better for having learned a little bit of the rock and roll thing. So, before we get any further, a quick shout out to today's sponsors. Today's sponsors are, of course, our usual sponsors in the form of licklibrary.com, where you can go and get more lessons just like this, and Guitar Interactive Magazine, where you can go and check out the latest in news, reviews, interviews, gear, all that other guitar lifestyle stuff. So Lick Library for your lessons, guitarinteractivemagazine.com for everything else. Before we go any further, let's say some hellos to the folks in the chat, and then we'll get stuck into the meat of today's session. Let's use it. I'm turning this way because this is where my laptop is. So if I'm not looking this way, it's because the laptop is here, as you guys can see on screen. So I'm going to hunch over it and say hellos to folks. Sacred Godslayer is first to the house, our Italian Shred correspondent. It is great to have you on board. Lovely to see you. PJ is back. Says, hey Nick, hey SGS and all. It's good to get away for a few weeks, but by Eck, it's good to be back. Miss my Monday guitar shows. We've missed you too. As Marcin rightly points out, it's good to have you back on board, my man. Who else do we have? Response Audio is here, always with the good stuff. Helmet Strap is tuning in. Says, hi everyone. Some of those original rock and roll guitarists were top players. Always saw shades of country and jazz, nice, in their playing. For sure, man. You know, you can trace the lineage of this kind of playing to blues, jazz, and country. For the most part, but just turned up to 1,000,000. So a lot of those lines that we discussed, for example, in our country Steal These Licks lesson, or in our even in our fusion one, we've got a jazz one coming up later on, which is going to be very interesting because I am not a jazz player by any stretch, but I'm not really a country player either, or a rock and roll player, or even really a fusion player. That's the whole point of this stuff. But yeah, you can very much trace a lot of the lineage of that style of playing and a lot of the approaches, especially some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, to those styles of music that you mentioned, 100%. But let's not forget the influence of the blues too. Marcin says, PJ, good to have you back, mate. Totally agree. Larry Warren is in the house. Lovely to have you. Foghornish is here. Karanka Tom is tuning in from Malmo in Yngve land. We're going to bust the Yngve out just yet. Who knows? Maybe. Is it? Somehow these streams always end up being just Yngve fests, and I don't know where. But you mentioned Sweden, we got to do the Yngve thing. Mark Crandall is tuning in. Great to have you. Kate Strange is here. Who else do we have? Steve McDee's in the house with some very good questions, very good observations. He says, hi guys, stealing licks and putting my own spin on them is cool, I agree. But, as my wife says, playing an Eric Clapton lick badly does not make it your lick. Well, that depends. It depends very much. But I kind of get where she's coming from, man. I'm inclined to agree. The point with this, I guess, is less to steal specific licks from players, but more to steal concepts and modes of thought that you can apply to building your own licks. However, he is asking the question, are we going to do a stream on new lick creation at some point? You guys let me know. Is that something you want to see? If that's something you're into, we'd love to do one. Mark McNish is a great question that we're going to address later on. Says, hi all, hello Nick. Struggle with the timing when learning licks. Learning slow is okay, but getting up to speed is a challenge. We're going to start that up because that's an interesting one. We'll come back to that later. Deadman Doogie Van Dugerson is here. Block 18 is here. Steve Ford is in the house. Paco Chastoris is tuning in. Ergo Hog is here. I'm going to change my name to Barry Cochran Setzer. Setzer after this night. I'll be Brian Setzer after this one. My knees hurt too. Says, also known, noontime, also known as beer time here. We love a bit of that. PJ says, oh wow, just love that playing lick. Just makes me smile. Oh man, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Paco Jazz Tori says, who let Brian Setzer in? Again, Brian Alka-Seltzer, that is me. Kim Wallace says, evening Nick, evening everyone. Nice PRS. It's okay, I guess. Now this is one of Kim's PRS, and it's really, really beautiful. Who else do we have? So I think Brian stayed in. We love a bit of that. We've got some interesting questions coming in from our friend Music Descending Symmetrically. Says, is MI descending the exact same as, is mi descending, we're talking in solfege here, exactly the same thing as do ascending? We may come back to that one, but we're not going to speak solfege in the guitar stream. We deal in intervals here, my good man, but I see where you're coming from. Or my good person, I don't want to assume your gender. Tony McAnally's in the house, says, I have my souped up SE 245 with Seymour Duncan Jazz Bridge and 59 neck pickups ready to rock and roll. That sounds like a great guitar. I'm really into that. Who else do we have in the house? Lots of folks we're going to say hello to very quickly. Dylan Jessup is here. Adam Baum is here. James Fair is in the house. Let's grab a couple of others very quickly. Make sure we're not missing anybody. Thomas Ross is tuning in. Lovely to see you. Lovely to have you back. Eddie Russell is in the house. I'm making sure to start up some questions here. D flat major 7. Lovely chord. Says, here from the States, one of Jeff Beck's early and long-time influences was Cliff Gallup from the Blue Caps. Jeff did an amazing tribute CD, live DVD to that genre of music. Highly recommended. I'm going to go and check that out because I don't think I've seen that myself. I'm going to encourage you guys to do so too. So, we've said our hellos, but don't forget, if you do have questions at any point, drop them down below. We will star them up, including any questions about me and Do and female Diaz and all of the above. Let me know down below in the comment section. We would love to hear from you. That is questions about this style of playing or anything else guitar related. We're going to have a full Q&A at the end of today's stream. But first, let's get into the meat of the lesson, which is things that we can steal from rock and roll guitar players. The first one of the bunch is to embrace the slop. What do I mean by this? You might be going, wait a minute, like these players like Scotty Moore, Brian Setzer, all these guys, unbelievable guitar players. Every single one of them, true, unbelievable guitar players when they wanted to be. But there was a real sense of like rock and roll danger about a lot of these guys' guitar playing. Because if we take a look at perhaps the early rock and roll guitar players, if we look at the settings that these guys were playing in, you often see these poor fellas playing these massive archbox guitars with really loud bands and then absolutely battering the living death out of the thing to try and get it heard over the sound of a loud drum kit. Because a lot of this stuff came up during the primitive era of amplification. And oftentimes, let's say the subtleties or the accuracy of the playing had to take backseat to the sheer velocity that these fellas were playing at. Now, another great example of this is if you take a look at some early big band guitar players. This is always something that I find absolutely hilarious because you would see guitars in the rhythm section of big bands back in the day, and there would be all the horns blaring away. I don't know if anybody's seen a big band, by the way. Let me know in the comments if you've ever watched a big band in the flesh. It's a religious experience. It's so powerful, it's not even funny. It knocks you over. It's like Dolby Atmos kind of stuff. It's wild. But the guitar is practically inaudible. It would be in the rhythm section and would essentially be the equivalent of a very quiet shaker with chords. But the way these guys were playing was just unbelievable. You'd see all of this crazy chords going on, and you couldn't hear a thing. Now, the advent of the amplified electric guitar, let's say it was probably popularized by Les Paul, and my history is a little shaky in that sort of time. A lot of this tradition of really beating on the guitar to get it heard was kind of just part of the vocabulary. And a lot of times, as modern guitar players, especially growing up in or coming up rather, in the internet era of the guitar, it can be very tempting to fetishize precision at the expense of vibe. So oftentimes it's kind of okay, especially in this style, just to hit and bash on the thing and not really make too much of a fuss about being super precise. We're going to outline a lick that we might do with this one, which is probably a bit of fun, I'm going to say, but it's also kind of a cool thing that we'll touch back onto later. It's a double stopping lick, and the double stopping lick is going to be very difficult for us to play if we try to play it with any degree of precision, and it also won't sound that rock and roll. It's going to be this, in essence. We're going to be playing the key of E, and we're going to be playing a lick that is broadly based around E minor pentatonic. But what we're going to play is the following. On the highest string, the E string, we're going to play 15, 14, 12. Then the same thing, pardon me, on the B string, 15, 14, 12. Then 15, 14, 12 on the G string, which will go like this. Now, let's do the same thing, but this time, instead of playing 15, 14, 12, 15, 14, 12, 15, 14, 12, we're going to play the same thing, but we're going to play two strings at once. 15, 14, 12 on the highest two strings. Same thing on the next two strings. Same thing on the next two strings. Now that immediately sounds, if we play it all on its own like this, like a bag of hammers, because we're not really hitting the notes in the scale particularly here. This is all just very hit and hopey. It's just a lick that goes. If we were to play this with clean and accurate double stops, let's go. It's very hard. It reminds me of my attempts to play the solo from Africa by Toto, which involves this. Really blimmin' hard, right? It's a very difficult thing to play those kind of double stops at speed and have them sound accurate, but it's more difficult again to have them have any attitude about them at all. So once again, I'm going to remind you of our lick, and we're going to try playing this with various degrees of precision or lack thereof. So if we play 15, 14, 12, 15, 14, 12, 15, 14, 12, but we also play the string immediately above the one we're trying to hit, we're going to get this. This is our backing track from the key of E. It's available on licklibrary.com. We might get this if we play slow. We might get, and that's fine. Let me know in the comments if you're managing this okay, because we're going to speed it up in just a little bit. We're going to play getting it? Because we're going to double the speed. We're going to go like this. We're going to go. Now, that in and of itself, let's just stop that back track there, and I'll show you what that sounds like if we play it without the track. It'll sound like a mess. There are strings ringing all over the place. It wouldn't wash on Instagram. Let's put it that way, right? Let's put it that way. It wouldn't. Somebody would probably try and clean that up in Guitar Hero, Guitar Pro or something after the fact. I don't know. But that's not the point. The point with this is, this lick is less about precision, and it's more about, it's about vibe, and it's about attitude. Now, there's time for precision, and this is not to say that these players aren't all unbelievably precise. This is just an example of when they choose not to be. Other players who maybe choose not to be super precise all the time, Jimmy Page is a great example of a guitar player that's capable of, or certainly in his pomp, was capable of fabulous precision. He was one of the most sought after session players in London, but was also very open to the idea of a little bit of scrap when the vibe called for it. Listen to the live solo from Heartbreaker, you'll know what I mean. Or the solo from Communication Breakdown. I refuse to believe for a second that Jimmy Page can't play that lick, this kind of business. I'm going to butcher it now. That lick. Without some degree of precision, but we get this. Which is actually kind of cool in context. It sounds kind of dangerous and kind of fun. So I'm going to encourage you to try and play this lick that we just played a second ago, this. A couple of different ways with me. We're going to start by prioritizing precision, and we're going to see how clean we can get it, and then we're going to change it up, and we're going to prioritize the vibe. We're just going to strike the thing, be very loose with your fingering. and we'll see what we get, and we'll see which one sounds better. I guarantee it's not the one you might immediately think. So let's start by prioritizing some precision. Quite hard to do, but it sounds okay. Let's instead just whack the thing, and we'll go. So on and so forth. Now, this is not to say that this should be the center of everything you play when you play this sort of style. It's not to say that everything needs to be loose and everything needs to be sloppy, but it doesn't always have to be super precise. Now, there are occasions and certain styles of music where the precision is absolutely the order of the day. But sometimes a little bit of scrap goes a real long way, you know? For example, if we were trying to do the Gary Moore thing, let's maybe take a rock track. Let's perhaps find something a bit more... I'm going to pick an 80s metal track. We're going to do an 80s big hair Aeolian track. Why not? Aeolian. Now, there is a wonderful lick that Gary Moore would pull out all of the time. I realize we're here to learn about rock and roll guitar and not necessarily Gary Moore, but the point stands, turning my delay on. Oftentimes, what you get with Gary's playing is you get all these fantastic arpeggios. Messed the vibrato up, I'm still in Brian Setzer mode. We're in the Zakk Wylde territory there, but you get the gist. Think like White Knuckles is a great example of this. Now this arpeggio could be played very precisely. It could be played... and that's a vibe, but it could also be played kind of scrappily and very aggressively. And it sounds more like Gary. The same is true if we do the crazy Zakk thing that we were just talking about. Now this Zakk thing, we could try and play that really... I say we could try and play it precisely. I find it very difficult to try and play it precisely because the whole deal with it is the vibe, embracing the scrap. Now on its own, sounds like a mess, but put it in the track, watch how quickly that scrap becomes something cool. Pay attention to those notes, those big... Those are not the cleanest notes I've ever hit in my entire life, but, in the context, they work. That's something we can steal from the rock and roll guys, which is to embrace the scrap. Embrace the slop when it's time. Now, it's not always time, but there are some other cool tricks we can do with this. There's a great lick that I hear rock and roll guys do all the time, and I guess it comes from gypsy jazz more than anything else. And the lick is this, right? Check it out. I'm going to throw it to you. It's the easiest lick in the entire world, but surprisingly difficult to pull off. We go like this. I'm laughing because it's such a silly lick. The lick goes like this. Did you catch it? Let's do it again. It sounds like a crazy alternate picking run, right? But if we go like this, that sounds like a mad picking passage. It's not. It's a pick and a slide. Now, this is something that I heard in Decadence Dance by Extreme, and it drove me nuts. I saw all sorts of crazy transcriptions. It's one of these lines that comes after the astonishing how much that muscle memory stays. But did you catch that lick in there? That that I always thought was some bonkers Nuno-esque kind of passage where he was playing. Nope, it's literally a slide up a string. Which leads me on to my next thing, which we can steal from rock and roll guys, which is, rock and roll players, which is to not be afraid of just making noise on the guitar. Just sounds. Sounds are cool, right? What do we mean by sounds? Well, sounds are things like this, right? If I take this lick that I was playing in the intro that folks seem to like, if I play, let's get to the one chord. Now, the noise component of this is this. But that is so much fun. What a cool lick that is, right? What a cool lick. This and this. And all these slightly bonkers noises that we hear in rock and roll playing. There is so much of that comes out in blues, and it comes out in rock, it comes out in metal, big time. Helmet Strap has rightly pointed out SRV. For sure, man, that is like big SRV vibes, right? He's clearly taken quite a bit from this. I actually have an SRV style backing track kicking around here somewhere. Yeah, Texas Blues and E. Let's literally just iron out the swing, and we'll take away the ba 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 and make it ba 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 ba. I'm going to switch to the neck pickup. Let's see if this guitar has a coil top. In fact, I'm going to ask James to appear on camera real quick because we've got the Silver Sky just off shot. So I'm going to ask James to pass me the Silver Sky. Folks, this is James, our cameraman, who is the man and also a very fine guitar player himself. Who's going to pass me this guitar that he likes. Hello, says James. James is a great cameraman, but is waving in front of the wrong camera. So, there you go. Oh no, James, you've let the side down. I'm going to keep this guitar handy because we may need to demonstrate some blues stuff, right? But this business of just make the rock noise, woo! You'll see this tabbed out quite a lot, especially on the SRV thing. That's good fun. Now, let's try this along with this Texas backing track. And I'm going to throw some of this. Mark Crandall's asking, hey Nick, is most of SRV stuff pentatonic? Not necessarily, although more of it is pentatonic than you might think. We're going to drop a tube screamer on top of this too because I've got one kicking around down here. Let's just knock you on as well. I do not purport to play like SRV, just throwing that out there by the way. He is one of the sacred cows of the guitar world. People get very upset if people do SRV wrong, which I'm about to, but I do not purport to be an SRV expert, nor am I a rock and roll expert, but that's fine, sneak me under there. So let's chuck this on. Here we go, here we go. So if we play, I should just play this guitar, this is loads of fun. But What you guys can hear from this is that noise, this racket, if you want to call it that, this noise thing, is an awful lot of fun, especially when we're playing in heavier styles. Now, it can work phenomenally well in blues, and there's loads of ways we can skin this in a blues sort of situation, and we'll maybe do a full thing on that another time. Maybe we'll steal these licks from blues players, but I assume at least half of you are blues players, and the other half are probably rock players or metal players. So, you know, it kind of feels like a little redundant at this point. But in a rock or a metal context, the number of noises that we can steal are just phenomenal. And it's a really great way of punctuating phrases, taking something that you have to say and then just punching it in with some flash, let's say. Let's consider some of them. We might take a pick scrape. We might take a slide. We might take the two slides. We might take the dime bag, slide up. We might take the trilling harmonics. If we had a trem, we could do a dive bomb. We could do the Eddie, pick, scrape, slide. There are so many noises that we can make here in the context of a metal or a rock piece of work. We could do pseudo things where we hit the harmonics. Do some behind the nut bends, all sorts of weird and wonderful noisy stuff. Zach does a whole ton of them. If we throw this on, and we maybe take some inspiration from this sort of embrace the noise mentality with maybe a rock track, maybe we'll take this one in the key of D for argument's sake. Let's just see how that might influence things. So, key of D. So on and so forth. Making the noise is great fun, right? And it's something that we can take from these players where they would use these flash noises that people haven't really heard and sounded really rebellious to, you know, punctuate their playing. It's lots and lots of fun. So we've embraced the scrap, we've embraced the noise. Third thing we're going to embrace with our rock and roll inspired guitar playing is to embrace repetition. I'm going to knock my tube screamer off here real quick. Got to do it on the switcher. There we go. To embrace repetition. Now, if you listen to specifically solos from maybe players in the 50s, let's call them the pre-Hendrix players, in the same way that there are lots of players in the 70s that are pre-Van Halen players, let's say, and pre-Yngwie players in the 80s. Pre-Guthrie players in the 2000s, I don't know. But we got some questions about the harmonic slide thing. We got some ones like that. We're going to get to that in a second. Sacred Godslayer has also pointed out that Jakey Lee would do this left-hand pull-off thing while putting his right hand on the harmonics on the 7th or 9th fret. That's a lot of fun with this business here. We can do a similar thing with this sort of business. If we take the 12th fret, for example, let me get this right. You see the 12th, 14th maybe. There's one of these where we can play, let's get it right. Let's figure this out. It might be 14th. No, it ain't that. I think it might be here. But we keep one note static and move this around to make a lot of fun. Now, if we're doing the Jake thing, we're doing this. I think something people miss sometimes is you can land the last note. And get up there. I like to do this as well with this trilly harmonic thing where I'll play. Doesn't always land. Let's behave. Hang on. That's That's the one. Sometimes you get it, or the noise gate is on. That's why it wasn't working. That's why it's working. We're getting some questions about these harmonics. Larry Warren says, how do you do those harmonics? Theus Cube says, how does these harmonic slide thing work? I'll show you this very quickly, first of all. Harmonic slide thing is pretty simple. We play a trill either between open and 2, on our G strings normally good, or 4, 2 and open. When we do it, we take the inside of a smooth, fleshy part of your hand. In this case, I'm using my thumb. And we touch, not press, but touch the string and just slide it around. You use a lot of gain, you use the bridge pickup. And when you're done, you point. You point to an attractive person in the crowd, you point to the gods of rock and roll, you point to your bandmates, you point to the guitar in surprise, you point to yourself, who knows, but you point. Once had a conversation with, we're getting off topic here, I once got a conversation with the bass player from Saxon in the toilets of a very small club in Manchester, and he told me that he likes to play his bass lines. The guy's a great bass player, but he told me he likes to play his bass lines on the open A and open E strings so that he can reserve his left hand for pointing. Which I think is just fantastic. Absolutely love it. Dr. Kuda says, that's an Eddie lick when it's muted. Totally agree, right? But most things are Eddie licks. Anyway, nice with the thumb. It's much easier, says Sacred God Slayer. Totally agree, man. The palm thing kind of works. Point at a fine girl. Point at a fine person of any, whatever you're into, man. You point at them. Myself, I tend to point at the buffet because I'm always hungry. Anyway, so we were talking about embracing repetition. So let's do the repetition thing, right? We're going to get rid of the rock backing track. We're going to go back to our rockabilly style backing track. It's a Brian Setzer style track. If you want to get hold of this one, it is available on licklibrary.com. Now, we've got some really strange questions coming in. Symmetrical music? I don't think so. I worked in private music schools and I've never been party to any special secrets. This stream shuts off now. You know what's going on. Anyway. Very strange questions. Anyway, so. Embracing repetition. If you go back to the 50s, we were talking about this before, if you go back to the 50s and you listen to a lot of these solos that these cats were playing, a lot of the times there were repeating motifs that you'd hear in these solos quite a lot. And it can be as simple as something like, and we're going to do one. And it's going to go like this. E major pentatonic. We're going to play, instead of 9, 11, 9, 11, 9, we're going to play 10, 11, 9, 11, 9. That's 10, 11 on the A string, 9, 11 on the D string, 9 on the G string, twice for good measure. Now, watch how potent it is when we repeat this and just start to move some of the pieces to make it fit the chords. Watch this. So much fun, right? So much fun. I love that sort of thing because, as Trace Puck likes to say, and as Adam Neely likes to say, repetition legitimizes. Repetition legitimizes. Repetition legitimizes. Take a moment to think, I was going to say, have you heard? Take a moment and think about some of the great rock and blues solos of all time. Think about some of the motifs that appear in some of these solos. Let's take maybe, for example, probably the best repetitive rock guitar solo of all time, which is the solo from All Right Now, which I'm not going to play too much of because of copyright reasons, but I mean, you know. I mean, come on. What else do we have? Freebird, for example. Freebird repeats all over the place. Stairway to Heaven, repetition. It's one of those things that people seem afraid of doing. Even Malmsteen's at it, right? You guys mentioned Malmsteen before. Repetition, Rising Force, the arpeggios that I can't play, and my friend Craig will roast me for not being able to play them properly. That's hard. Where do we go from there? Wherever we get to, it's something like that, right? Give or take. Repetition. Other examples of repetition in rock and metal. Man, we might take something like, we were talking about Eddie before. What about Eruption? Eruption is all repetition, and then it's repeated again in the song that it tacks onto, which is You Really Got Me. So we've got the lick in Eruption, the... And then we've got You Really Got Me with the... So it's repetition, and repetition it goes. No More Tears. Put some scrap on there. Put some rock and roll on there. Sacred Godslayer, In With The Wind, Tornado of Souls. What a great choice. For the Love of God, any guitar instrumental worth its salt. Cliffs of Dover. Man, like, just so many of these things are repetitive in their nature. And a repetitive lick is super cool. Something I've noticed for myself when I'm playing solos in front of crowds, this is a big one, is they seem to respond really well to the repetition. And what I mean by this is I can play all sorts of what I consider to be really cool stuff, but as soon as we start to repeat things, that's when people will start to go, yeah, because it's something they can latch onto. It's really weird, man. So if I take something like 87 Shuffle, which is the White Snake style backing track that I've got here. Now, let me just find this guy. We've got a few of them. I'm certain it's in here. I hope it's in this project. I don't know if it's just on my desktop. Oh no, here it is, 87 Shuffle, key F sharp minor, right? Let's play some cool stuff, and then I'll play some repeated licks over the top of this. You'll see how much it maybe grabs you. Maybe as a guitar player, you'll maybe go, no, not that interested in that, but audiences really respond to this, trust me. So, if I play... Man, when I hit that lick, I can tell the crowd's gonna go for it, right? Same thing if I'm going. That repeated figure, they're gonna get it. It's not just for melodic passages, it's for the shreddy stuff too. So we can really draw from that. I've got another one for you that we're gonna show you. Another idea, but before we do, I wanna take a quick second and talk about today's sponsored course, which you'll find down in the description. Now, I don't have all my cameras and stuff, so I can't show this to you, but I want you to go after this stream and go and check out the linked course down below. The linked course is by Dan Smith of the Guitar Hour fame, fabulous guitar player and a specialist in some very unusual styles of music, including this one that we're talking about today, but specifically a style called Western Swing, which is the marriage of country, swing, rockabilly kind of playing. It's fabulous. Dan's got a course called 51 Western Swing Licks, and you'll find that in the description down below. It's available on licklibrary.com. Lick Library members get this as part of their membership, but it's also available for purchase in our store, if I'm not mistaken. But to be honest, for the price of the course, you should just sign up. It's much better. I would say that, but you know, there's so much good stuff in there. If you're not a Lick Library member already, man, I think you should be, because there's all sorts of great business in there, including the backing track we're using today. So go check that out. That is Dan Smith's 51 Western Swing Licks. It's killer, right? I'd love to say I've pinched loads of stuff from there. I haven't spent enough time with it, but I've watched it and I've drooled over it and gone, man, Dan's so good. I'm going to learn this one day. Maybe this week is the week. Who knows? Anyway, last thing we're going to throw out there is one that's been staring us in the face the whole time when we've been playing this, which is to embrace the use of double stops and chords in your soloing. Now, so often we think about soloing as the time to play single notes, right? When we go to solo, it's single note time. We play the single notes and that's what we do. Do we have to play single notes in solos? Nope. Can we play a solo made of chords? Yes. Do rockabilly guitarists and rock and roll guitarists play solos made of chords? Frequently. Let me show you an entire solo that I'm going to just play chord shapes for, right? I'm going to improvise this. This is not me making licks up. I'm just going to improvise this. We're in the key of E, so I'll show you the chords very quickly. The chords in question are E, dominant 7, which I could make an E6 if I so desire. A, dominant 7, which I can play here, here, here. And B, dominant 7. I'm going to busk a whole solo using just chords. Check it out. It's loads of fun. Loads of fun. Now, this is not to say that you should exclusively use chords and double stops when you're playing, but it's a really fun thing to introduce into your rock and your metal playing. We've got a one from Sacred Godslayer that says the problem with really high gain playing is the double stops usually sound muddy, but that's a limitation of the instrument, and why Iron Maiden split their melodies on 2 guitars. Totally agree. But it doesn't have to be. So, for example, like I'll frequently busk. I say busk, I keep saying busk. I play in a little trio, playing all sorts of cool stuff. And one of the songs we do is we do More Than a Feeling, and it's a harmony solo, and there's only 3 of us. So I'll play this. With the touch harmonic at the end. Is it the same as 2 guitars playing it? Nah, not really. But does it sound fun? Does it sound cool? Yeah, I think so. I think it sounds pretty cool. So some tricks with this to make this sort of stuff pop is to make sure that the notes are fairly even in volume. Maybe try playing them a little more gently. Try playing some hybrid picking double stops to make this pop with high gain stuff. Another thing you might do is you might try the neck pickup, you might try Fishman Fluen's pickups actually do a fabulous job of this. They have this magic trick where you can hear all the notes in the chord. Roll out some low end before the signal gets to your amp. So for example, a tube screamer, we'll throw that on very quickly because that takes away some of that mud. Need a back pickup for that. But even still, is it perfect? No, but I guess we also probably need to just do away with the idea that it's going to sound like harmony guitars, because it's probably not, but it's probably going to sound like some cool double stops. Now, how might we implement that into, say, a rock solo? Well, we can use these the same way we started using our noise things, as just a cool, noisy, crackly sort of sound. The most obvious one is to use some unison bends to fatten up single note lines. So if we're playing this, we can play. Now we sound like Steve Vai, which is instantly a cool thing. If I throw my backing track on for the Whitesnake style track, where we get this, and I'll maybe play some double stop melodies, or some unison band melodies. Fun. But we're not done with that. We can play some double stops too, like for example the Boomer Bend. Does it sound cool? I think so. But we're not limited to just those. What if we do some stuff that's maybe a bit less overtly metal? Maybe we throw our Richie Kotzen style backing track on. It's the wrong key. That's not going to work. Let's maybe find one that will work. Let's try this one. This is the chill track in C sharp minor. What if we play against some open strings? So open strings, maybe like our E string, we play in C sharp minor. What if we take a line that might be like this? And we play every note with an open E string as well. I might need a bit less gain for that, so let's knock the tube screamer off and let's make it a bit more of a mid-gain, low-gain deal, where, not low-gain. Or maybe the B string. Let's throw it along with this. If my guitar was perfectly tuned, that would help, so let's just do a quick tuning check. There's my E string. I've John Sykes it out of tune, but maybe something like this. And that's loads of fun. Now this is all just taking, I guess, an open-minded approach to what it would be like to solo using double stops. But we don't have to use double stops. We can use chords. We can employ chords as stabs in our solos or as moments in our solos. Let's say, for example, if we took a blues, this will be our last example. Let's take our slow blues in B. We go back to that rock and roll sound because that's quite good fun. But I think I'll throw the screamer back on. We'll split the coil because why not? We can do some really fun Stevie Ray tricks where maybe we take our B minor pentatonic, and when it's time for the 5-4-1 part of our chord progression, I'm going to hide this comment Sacred God Slave. I just realised it was on there the whole time. We can play some cool tritone ideas and maybe scrub them, maybe with our finger like Stevie would, or with our pick like the rest of us would. Let's take a listen and see how that behaves. string. Double stops here. Fun to be had. Now, I don't know about you, but I sleep on this stuff all the time when it comes to playing more than one note at a time in my solos, and I don't know why. I've just got it in my head that solos are single notes. If anything, our rock and roll compatriots have demonstrated to us, maybe not. Now, I deliberately haven't touched on things like following the chord progression or stuff like that, because we did all of that in our country stream, right? Highlighting the chords, all that sort of business. We touched on all that sort of thing. And we're going to do it again on the jazz stream later on. So fear not if you're wondering, well, what about that sort of business? That's coming. But guys, we're running shy on time. So we're going to go to the Q&A. I'm going to flip the background. Hey, flip the overlay at least. We got some good questions that came in. Probably not going to answer this one because it all went a bit weird all of a sudden there. Is mi descending the same thing as do ascending? Do, re, mi. Do, re. I don't think so, no, because, I mean, if you mean do ascending to re, is it the same distance? Yeah, technically, I guess. Sure, but they serve different functions. Mi, regardless of whether it's ascending or descending, is the third. Do is always the tonic in this case. Unless you're some kind of weirdo that uses fixed do, where do is always C. Had some singers who tried to teach like that, it was weird. Ungood. And it came from piano players. Piano players and singers, opposite ends of the realm of musical theory interaction. But that's just my little pet theory. Anyway, moving on. Here's a great one from a friend who I'm going to interpret as Jesus L. Balidore. Good name. Very good name. Says, when jamming with others, how would you come up with a rhythm section? Hard rock style. Thanks. Well, hard rock means a lot of things. So I'm gonna maybe highlight a few little tips with this one. So the first thing to do with this is you can have a lot of fun with playing between yourself and a bass player, let's say, in terms of who moves. Do you both move? Does one of you move and the other stays static? Does the other move and does the other stay static and you move? Here are some examples. So if we take the example of the bass staying put and the guitar moving, we get Running with the Devil. Let's get the rock sound. But we can also have a lot of fun with the guitar staying put and the bass moving. Maybe we get... let me see if I can get this on the go. Hang on one second. I was planning on going down here. Let me drop to D for this. That might actually make my life a little bit easier. Yeah. So you might get something like this, say, for example. Where the guitar stays put. Bass goes. And then the bass stays put, the guitar moves. All you both move. Both move is okay, or neither of you moves. But the point with this is, I guess, is not to be afraid to have one instrument shift about and the other instrument not. Now, in those two examples, we just did a lot of what makes latter day Van Halen, like Van Hagar era Van Halen tick. And I think it coincides with our man Ed getting more into his keyboard playing, where you can go, oh, this hand stays, this hand moves, that's interesting, or this hand stays, this hand moves, that sort of deal. That could be a fun thing to do. Unison riffs are always fun, pretty cool. Now, another interesting point with this in terms of, I guess, creating contrast is to maybe take the AC/DC method. And the AC/DC method is to play the guitar when the drums aren't playing. So if you listen to the majority of AC/DC's riffage, the really good ones are the ones where there are gaps between the guitars and the drums. So if we take something like Highway to Hell, listen to the downbeat. Hopefully you can see this picking up. I'm going to stamp my foot and pretend I'm playing country music. Let's put my guitar back on. It's probably not in tune. 1, 2. You can hear how the guitar is separate from the whatever the kick or snare drums going on at the time. This gives both instruments room to breathe, and it comes from a place of I guess it comes a little bit from country music, where you have this bass guitar interplay, where you have this helps if the guitar's in tune. I think I've said that several times already today. Apparently I'm just bad at tuning guitars. Who knew? But yeah, it comes from that sort of thing, which in turn comes from German Umpar music, which is which bears a shocking resemblance to traditional Eastern European music. Which also bears a resemblance to jazz, which in turn bears a resemblance to like modern dance music. And I say modern in the broad sense, where you get the kick bass one off from the other, this kind of sound. I can't simulate that in the guitar. I can't even simulate it in my voice. But you get the idea. It's that sort of deal. You hear it in reggae. You hear this. In reggae, it's interesting because it's implied. Nobody plays the one in reggae. It's this. It's almost illegal to play the one. The drummer even plays the crashes on the ba 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 ps ga 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 ra ga 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 ps ga ga. Nobody plays the one, but it's the same deal. There is breathing room for the downbeat. Creating breathing room for the downbeat inside your riff makes a big impact in your hard rock writing. A good example of this might be, we can take something like Symphony of Destruction, which is this. I don't know what the riff actually goes like, but do 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 do. Whatever, we'll not do the Dave Mustaine voice. Other examples might be Walk, which is that. Really good example. There are more, there are several more, there are definitely many Metallica riffs that do this as well. So it's not just like dad rock, although we have just played a load of dad metal, but even still, it's neither here nor there. You get the gist. So hopefully that helps, man. Lots of stuff in there. We're going to take this question from Mark McNish. We're going to make this our last, unfortunately. We're going to make this the last one because we've got a few more coming in, but I want to make this the last one we do because it's a very good question, which is, hi all, hello Nick. I struggle with timing when learning licks. Learning slow is okay, but getting up to speed is a challenge. I think a big part of this is learning to properly audiate the lick that we're playing in terms of being able to hear how it sounds and being able to speak the lick, even if you can't speak individual notes, being able to speak it in time with the thing you're trying to play, but also embedding the accents, i.e. the reference points, the technical reference points that you need when you get the lick up to speed. An example of this might be the Paul Gilbert lick. I always go back to this one because it just seems like an obvious choice, but it's this. If I embed that, and I make sure that those reference notes or those reference attacks are in time, and then allow the rest of the notes to fall where they may, it often kind of works. Examples of this might be things that I struggle with, like, I really struggle with these final countdown type arpeggios. These. With those because I find the accent is not fully embedded in my mind yet. I don't know which stroke I'm landing on the downbeat. I don't know whether I'm focusing on the up pick, whether I'm focusing on the down pick. Having a clearly defined rhythm in my mind of I go ba 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 can really help. Now, a great example of this is the way a guitar player called Timu Mantasari, who I think is the new Megadeth guitar player, if I'm not mistaken. I think Kiko put him up for the gig. Great player. He talks about teaching sweep arpeggios as rhythms. So if we take the idea of a sweep like this, which I can't do. Now the way Timu would teach that is he would teach it as a rhythm first. He'd teach it as, which means the right hand perceives this. Ba, 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 ba. Notice how clean that is now, or much cleaner it is. It's quite difficult to switch gear from Brian Setzer to Timu Mantasari, but you get the idea. Having that clear, ba 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 ba, in my mind with the right hand goes a long way towards helping this stuff. Hopefully, Mark, hopefully that's going to give you a little bit of help with this sort of stuff. But Cracker Tom, with a lovely comment, says, Nick, the incarnation of a rock and roll Swiss Army knife, from reggae to country to whatnot, incredible. Thanks, man, I appreciate it, you know. We sit in Guthrie's shadow here because he does all that sort of stuff, but and he's the best. But, you know, I do like to dabble in lots of styles because I think there's stuff to be learned from at least having a little bit of something, a little bit of a toe in every style of music. It's an awful lot of fun. Guys, unfortunately, we have run clean out of time. I want to say thank you very much for coming on board. It's been an awful lot of fun. I feel like I should probably play out on that Brian Setzer style track one more time, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to leave the tube screamer on for a bit of a laugh, though, because why not? Not the most authentic tone, I'm sure, but I'm not the most authentic player in this style. But we'll play a little bit. It's going to be a lot of fun. Don't forget, by the way, guys, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to us on whatever channel you happen to be watching on so we can let you know when we go live. Clue, it's every Monday, 8 p.m. UK time. Give this video a thumbs up, share it with your guitar playing friends. If you have a guitar player in your life who you think would find this useful, we'd love to reach as many as possible. Go to licklibrary.com for lessons, guitarinteractivemagazine.com for news, reviews, interviews, gear, all the other stuff that's not lessons. Make sure you check out Dan Smith's 51 Western Swing Licks. Link is down below. I will see you guys next week. Let's play some more rock and roll nonsense. Hi, my name's Nick Jennison, and it's my pleasure to announce that GI Plus, the exclusive lesson platform from Guitar Interactive magazine, is moving to licklibrary.com. GI Plus features a whole host of the best players and educators in the world, bringing you exclusive lessons on everything from metal to blues to fusion and everything in between. Want to level up your shred chops? Check out How to Play Fast by Andy James. Or how about sweep picking with Rick Graham? Or maybe country's more your bag? Well, how about a full-length country guitar course from Andy Wood? Interested in learning how to play over changes? Well, members get access to hours of exclusive lessons from fusion maestro Tom Quayle. Or maybe you want your playing to sound more soulful. Well, who better than Chris Buck to show you how it's done? Members also get access to every lesson ever published in Guitar Interactive magazine, including Michael Caswell's legendary Pro Concepts column. Or maybe you want to learn the secrets of the masters. Well, members get access to over 70 full-length tech sessions where our tutors painstakingly decode the styles of players like David Gilmour, Eddie Van Halen, John Petrucci, Larry Carlton, Slash, Tosin Abasi, Paul Gilbert, and many more. And you get all of this in addition to all of the amazing content on licklibrary.com, which includes note-for-note tuition of over 60 classic albums, weekly lesson uploads, a backing track library, and one-to-one player support. There has never been a better time to sign up than right now.